Hello Linux fans, Rob here and welcome to Linux Quest. Today we've got a look at Ubuntu Mate 17.04. In my last Ubuntu Mate video, I called it the gold standard of Linux operating systems. That hasn't changed, and they've added in a tremendous amount of refinement. So let's jump in and take a look. Ubuntu Mate 17.04. So there are Linux operating systems and then there are Linux operating systems. And what I mean by that is we've got a tremendous number of Linux operating systems to choose from, but only a few of them make it into that top 10 category. Ubuntu Mate is certainly one for me that is in that top 10 category. I called it the gold standard of Linux operating systems, and I called it that for a very good reason. It fits the bill for many users on many levels. Recently on Linux Quest, I had someone message me and say, "Hey, I am considering moving from Windows over to Linux for the first time. What distribution do you recommend?" And without hesitation, I recommended Ubuntu Mate. Now, this is version 17.04, focused in on some refinements, but I want to give you a little backstory as well. Recently, myself and Rocco over at Destination Linux podcast had the opportunity to speak with Martin Wimpress, who is instrumental on the Mate side of Ubuntu Mate. Martin is an awesome guy, and he spent a lot of time with us going through the history of Ubuntu Mate and how things came to be. That is something that has always interested me, and one of the reasons that we asked that question is because we want to get a feel for what the focus of a particular distribution is. Now in this case, Martin, like many of you watching, is the go-to guy when it comes to technology within his family. He spent some time switching family members from Windows over to Linux, and during that process, I'm going to call it a process of trial and error and a process of discovery, he realized that there should be an easier way for family members to interact with the Linux operating system, and so he got to work with the Mate desktop for Ubuntu and started tweaking things and adding things and setting it up in such a way that his family would be able to interact with the UI and find the areas that they need to find to go in and make settings and changes without continually calling him or asking for his help. So the whole premise behind that is one of the reasons that I think many users find Ubuntu Mate extremely easy to use, even if it's their first Linux operating system. So let's jump through some of those things, but I also want to point out some of the refinement. And also, I want to make note that Ubuntu Mate isn't just for beginners. It's really an operating system for everyone. Alright, so let's take a look at the Welcome Center. And that is an area where you're going to see some refinement, not in just appearance with animations and transitions, but really a Welcome Center that has set the bar. And because this gives you access to things such as the software boutique, which is just, simply put, just a phenomenal way to access your software within an operating system. And we're going to dig into that. But I want to point out several other things too about the Welcome Center. It's more than just quick links to the forums or quick links to the Ubuntu Mate page. There are many things that I've discovered as this has developed in 17.04 that are excellent refinements, and for someone new to Linux or for someone who's been running Linux for a while, you're going to appreciate what's been put in place here. So first of all, let's just jump over here to features. And we're going to go ahead and maximize this. So this gives someone new to the operating system a quick rundown. Pre-configured yet flexible, built-in security. So they're going to talk about viruses and other infections and the security behind Ubuntu Mate. They'll talk about the applications, entertainment, games, so on and so forth. So that's nice to see a quick synopsis of what Ubuntu Mate is about. But things get really good and interesting when you get into getting started. Now here's an area that was either not in place in the previous version or I completely missed it, because when I discovered this and these quick links for various settings, I thought this is the way it should be done. So first of all, you're going to see updates and extras. So you'll launch into that, and then quickly you could go in and check for updates, which I have done. You could add additional codecs, which I have done. If you need Blu-ray or DVD playback support, it's right here, one-click install. Additional screensavers as well as additional community wallpapers. Now this was something that I don't believe was here before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I absolutely installed some of these awesome, really cool community wallpapers. So we'll kind of take a look at those a little later. But this is just fantastic the way this is laid out. Also within getting started, you're going to see additional drivers. Install the firmware package, things like that. So Intel drivers are open source and maintained and updated in the kernel. I'm good to go. So for someone new, this is fantastic. And for someone like myself who distro hops on a continual basis, it's still fantastic. Printers. So here we see HP and Linux. I had someone the other day on Linux Quest asking, hey, if I were to purchase a new printer, what would I go for? Because I'm going to be running Linux and I want to make sure the support is there. You see HP, I recommended HP and pointed that person to the HP list of Linux supported printers. So great to see this here. Software utilities for peripherals. So the Razer drivers for Linux. Stuff here, I don't even know what this is. Polychromatic. So if this was all in place and here as we're seeing it now, in the previous version I completely missed it. So it's great to see this. Alright, we'll come out of getting started. You've also got quick links here to the community, the chat room, but this is the big one, software. And we'll take a look here at the software boutique. Also, you have Get Involved, Shop. They've got a little store set up here. And if green is your color, they've got an awesome looking t-shirt with the Ubuntu Mate logo. And coffee mugs, USB flash drive, so on and so forth. Really is a community around Ubuntu Mate. All right, let's jump over here to the software boutique. This is where things really start to shine for this operating system. There have been some refinements here, some additions that I think are over the top in ease of use, and it just has continued to get better. Alright, so I'm going to minimize this for the purpose of having a little fun with my buddy Rocco. So during the conversation with Martin, Rocco had a terrific idea. You see here, so if you go into various categories within the software boutique, you can scroll down and see the various pieces of software that you can click one-click install. And so Rocco had this terrific idea. He said, hey Martin, what if we could, if you could incorporate a grid view so that you don't have to scroll and you can see more of the applications per category? Well, Martin came back and said, okay, just a minute. And I think he was having a little fun because I had forgotten this, but I'm pretty sure it was already in place. The grid view is actually there if you maximize. So you notice that transition and bam, everything's in a grid view. You see much more of what's available in that category. So we had a little fun with that, and Rocco was happy to see that, and I had forgotten that this was in place. I'm, again, 99% sure this was already in place in the previous version of the software boutique. It's just that you need to maximize the window to see the full effect. Now, Rocco also had another good idea that if you had a little grid icon here, with one click you could maximize and go into that grid view. But the other area that I was thrilled to see, and boy is this a time saver, and that is what's called the bulk queue. So now you're able to go in and select your software for install, but we'll step through the process of the bulk queue install and how that works here in just a second. Before we do, I want to cover how this is laid out. So you've got various categories here. So you go accessories, education, games, graphics, so on and so forth. Now this hasn't changed that much as far as the layout from the last version to this version, but there are some things that have changed within the software that's installed, and we're going to look at that in just a minute. But before we do, let's go back to the queue and the bulk install. So I'm going to choose here Impasse, and then we'll move over to Sound and Video, and one of the new additions in Sound and Video is Simple Screen Recorder. That wasn't there before, it is now, so we're going to go ahead and choose Install on that. Now you'll notice a little action up here when I do that. It highlights and it shows that there's two pieces of software that I'm installing. Let's go back over to Accessories, and let's see here. I think I'll add, let's go ahead and install Convert All. And now we show that we have 3 applications to install. If we click on Bulk Queue, you're going to get a listing of what it is you're going to install. You click Apply Changes, and the install process begins. Now here's what I love about this. In the past, you one at a time had to go in and click the one piece of software. Oh my goodness, that's so hard. I know it sounds like I'm whining here, but you had to wait for that one piece of software to install before you moved on to the next piece of software. So you're basically sitting here in attendance installing all the software that you would use on the operating system. So that takes a little time, but they make it extremely easy with one-click install. Now it's gotten even better with the bulk install, because I can go in and choose, and I've done this in the past, 10, 12 different applications. They all line up under bulk install. One click, I can walk away and go make me a sandwich and come back to see that everything has installed. So this is huge as far as time is concerned, because some of these applications are fairly large and it can take a decent amount of time, depending on your internet connection, for 10, 12, 15 applications to install. So absolutely love this from the convenience factor. Absolutely love this from the standpoint of you can easily see exactly what you've installed in a list here. I think it's just brilliant, and so I applaud the work here. It just makes the software boutique that much better, and that is some of the refinement that I mentioned when it comes to Ubuntu Mate 17.04. So while that's installing there, we're going to go ahead and minimize this. This is one of the community wallpapers as well, and I told you we'd take a look at some of the other wallpapers, so we'll do that. Well, I say we will do that, but my right click is not giving me that option right now. That is interesting. Alright, so we see here it's finished, so that's going to clear things out. Now I want to step in some other areas here. We'll go back to the wallpapers here in just a minute. We're going to go over to System, Preferences, Look and Feel, Appearance, and let's go to Background. So I installed some of the community wallpapers, and I highly recommend you do, because there's some really creative stuff here. So we'll just take a look here. For example, this one. And the motorcycle here, this was very cool. Oops. And a couple of cats if you're into cats. And there was another one here with some vintage airplanes that I thought was absolutely awesome. So we'll leave it at that one. There you go. There's a quick look. Now the right click access completely went away, and that may be because of the setting that we have here, the UI setting, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Alright, so let's go back into the Software Center. I want to point out a couple of things. Here we have more software. There you can gain access to the Synaptic Package Manager, and I know a lot of the tried and true Linux users out there are fans of Synaptic Package Manager, so that's one-click install. And then you also have the Software Center that you would typically find within, say, Ubuntu proper. That would be something you'd be familiar with for accessing your software. Now, another area that I want to get into is Boutique News. Now, this is an area that's going to give you the, I guess, scoop on what has been added and removed from the Software Boutique. Now, we were able to talk with Martin about that, and there is a process for which software is added and removed. One of the things that they look at and consider is the software up to date? Is it being actively developed? They also look at the quality of the software. Is this something that is going to allow the operating system to shine if it's installed? Or is this software that might be in a way either a security risk, or is it that it's not being developed and therefore could cause issues within the operating system? If that's the case, then it might be a piece of software that's removed until things change and it meets the criteria. Or it may be added because it's been recently updated and meets their criteria. So in this case, under Boutique News, I suggest that you scroll through and take a look. So for example, in 17.04.10, Simple Screen Recorder was added. We're now on version .11 here. You'll see that caffeine was added. But then we had a few that were removed here. Quite a few, actually. Here's a long list under 17.04.0. So definitely take a look there. Now let's go to one other area, and that's preferences. So here, I haven't seen this in the past either, and it may be that I missed it, that it was there and I missed it, or this may be new. So if you are one who likes to tried and true open source only, you've got an option here to hide proprietary applications. So I think you'll appreciate that if your sole focus is completely open source. You can also enable or disable in the bulk queue, which we just stepped through. And then you've got some options under advanced, and that's software sources. Oops. So we're going to have to reload into that because I clicked out. And manage repositories here. So I wanted to make sure I pointed all of those out. And then, of course, let's not miss this, but you've got quick search. So we chose Chrome, and that's going to pull up Chromium and Google Chrome. Brilliant job on the Software Boutique. Refinements in place. I just say that this is getting better and better. So great job there. All right, let's go ahead and close that out. Now let's talk about another area of refinement, and for me that's in the dark theme which I have in place, as well as some other things that we want to take a look at. So let's go into preferences, look and feel again, appearance. And here we've chosen the new theme that you'll have access to within 17.04, and that's Ambient Mate Dark. And this looks beautiful. I'm not one that typically goes with a dark theme, and I kind of lean towards blues as opposed to green, but this certainly looks nice. You're also going to notice, I think you'll notice the refinement in the icons. They look more polished, more professional, and I believe that's from the support of the folks over at Elementary OS. So let's jump over to the home folder and you'll see what I mean here. And we'll zoom in on those icons. So great job there in the refinement in the icons. And I'm also going to say that the fonts look better than they did in the past. And I don't know, Ubuntu has always done an extremely good job with their fonts. Lots of work there on the font rendering, and to me it looks improved. I don't know if that's due in part to everything is GTK3 now, but I noticed the fonts from distro to distro, and these fonts are beautiful, and the icons are also beautiful. So great job there, and again another area of refinement. Alright, I know I'm bouncing around here, but we're going to go back over to System, Preferences, Look and Feel, Appearance, Mate Tweak. Now under Mate Tweak you're going to have some options. You can show the desktop icons. You can show icons on menus and on buttons. And then we have panel options. Now this is an area where you're going to have some new features. We currently are set up under Pantheon. You have Cupertino, which was there in the past, Fedora, GNOME 2, Mutiny. For those of you who are sad to see Unity go, you've got an option for Mutiny, which could give Ubuntu Mate a similar layout to Unity. And then we have the new Pantheon. So this change adds not only a different layout, and let's just go ahead and close this out and we'll take a look at that layout, which gives you a dock at the bottom and the new Brisk menu here as opposed to applications, which is the default. Now the Brisk menu is being worked on by Ike Doherty of the Solus project in conjunction with Martin, and they've incorporated this over as a new part of Ubuntu Mate, and I think it's an awesome addition. This would pretty much be my preferred layout. The Brisk menu has done nothing but improve over time. It's fast, it's fluid. They've added the right quick links here for control panel and welcome, which will get you right into the software boutique, for example. Log out, shut down, and a quick search here. And you'll notice how quickly Chromium populated. And then you still have access here to places for all of your folders, your network, so on and so forth, recent documents, and then the System tab. So I really think this is an excellent layout. Now let's right click. Okay, that's what it was. So we had the active desktop turned off earlier. Now we could get in and change the background quickly with a right click anywhere on the screen. I'll go ahead and remove Firefox from the panel. Let's talk about some other things. So let's jump back into preferences, look and feel, and make sure I'm on the right track here. Appearance, background, fonts, and interface. So under interface, you've got an option for show icons in the menus. Under fonts, this is an area where you could go in and out of the box, everything looks great. So I'm not going to change a thing. But if on your monitor you have issues with the fonts not being as clear, this is an area where you could go in and choose some different options. If you go into details, you could change things such as the resolution. Typically, you don't have to change that, but where you might want to make some changes is under hinting. So you may want to go from slight to medium, for example, or in some cases, depending again on your monitor, you may bump that up to full. In my experience, slight or medium gives you the best results within an Ubuntu-based distribution. The other area where you may make a change is from RGB over to BGR, for example. Typically, I find that on modern monitors, RGB looks the best. Now, the themes can be customized. As I've said earlier on here, the Ambient Mate Dark, to me, is really beautiful. I'm not prone to dark themes, but for whatever reason, this works really, really well together. But you can go in and customize that as well. You can change the control layout, the window border, the icons, and I'll see here that the Breeze icons have been installed. Actually, let's select those. And the reason those are installed is because when you install Kdenlive, which is a video editor, they rely on the Breeze icon theme for the UI, for everything to look right. Well, I noticed that now within Ubuntu Mate, when you install Kdenlive, it automatically pulls in the Breeze icon set, which is, again, brilliant. That saves me the task of launching it only to realize that, oh, I didn't install the Breeze icon theme. So great job there, and again, refinement and attention to detail. All right, so we're going to go ahead and choose that. You could choose the pointer or change the pointer here, increase the size. Let's go with, well, there's not a lot of difference. Let's go with white glass. And we'll slide that up a little bit. Close that out. Close that out. Now let's go back in and take a look at our home folder. Look how beautiful those icons apply. Now I like blue more than green. You could go in and tweak some things and change this to green as well. Point being, this gives you a lot of flexibility. Everything's moved over to GTK3 now, so the GTK-based themes that you apply should do a very good job applying there. As you see here, I think this is just a beautiful look. To each his own there. This is a long video. This is a long review. There's lots to talk about and lots to see here. I know there's another area that I want to go in and change things. Actually, let's look and see how well things did apply. And you'll see here in the Brisk menu, it looks like the majority of the icons have stayed intact as they should. Let's go back over into Preferences. We're going to go to Look and Feel. We'll go to Mate Tweak, because here's another area under Panel that I want to make sure that I point out. You've got panel features here called Enable Indicators, and what you'll see is a change in what is available menu-wise once you've enabled the indicators. So now we have access under Sound Settings for quick access to the volume, quick access to the mic, things like that. And then you have Enable Advanced Menu, Enable Launcher, Enable HUD, Enable Pull Down Terminal, and Enable Keyboard LED. So that changes things. Animations can be turned on or off under Windows, under Performance. Do not show window content when moving windows. Window behavior, enable window snapping. Undecorate maximize windows, or do not auto maximize new windows. You can also change the control placement. So if you're someone, they call it traditional and contemporary. If you're someone who came from the Mac world, you can switch those controls over to the left within the window, and then your muscle memory will kick in and you'll feel at home going to the left as opposed to the right. If you're a Windows user, you're going to focus in more on the traditional right side controls. And then you have Window Manager selection here. We've got Marco for the software compositor. You could go in and set that up under Compiz as well. So no, we did not replace that. I believe we kept that the same. We'll see how that affects the video. Alright, so this is one of those distributions again that I call the gold standard, and now it's the gold standard refined. It's terrific for someone who is new to Linux. It's terrific for someone who's been using Linux for some time. Maybe they're looking now for an alternative since the Unity desktop is going away. I think this is an area, and let's just go ahead and make the switch. I think this is an area where you may want to certainly take a look, because now you've got some options where you can go in and change things to have a more familiar interface by choosing Mutiny. And voila, now you see you've got everything over here on the left with quick access to the applications and everything here, and maybe this would be a more familiar layout for you. Now you start to see some of the Breeze icons come into play here, so that really changed things quite a bit, but you get the idea. If you've never tried Ubuntu Mate before and you're looking for something new, I'm going to highly recommend version 17.04 because of all of the refinements in place. I think if you give it a little time, you're going to find it's an excellent distribution. It's an excellent choice. Well, that's it for now. This has gone long, so we'll wrap things up. Thanks for watching, and we will check you later.